Welcome to the Martin Bailey Photography Podcast. It's April 5, 2023, and this is episode 810. This week we complete our visual journey, joining me on our second Japan Winter Wildlife Tour, and we also, with this episode, complete the total of 9 episodes to share my entire 2023 Japan winter season. It was an interesting season, partly because we had to work around a number of changes imposed on us by the pandemic, and also because my usual assistant for these tours broke her wrist just a few weeks before we started the tours and was replaced by another lady who kindly stepped in at the last minute. I'm eternally grateful to both of them for all that they do to help make these tours what they are. And although it was taxing at first, we now have 2 people that can help out and back each other up, if necessary, which is great. So we'll jump in as we arrive at the port town of Naosu and embark on our first trip out to photograph the Steller's sea eagles and white-tailed eagles. These are both magnificent birds, but over the years I've gravitated more towards the Steller's sea eagles, and this has filtered through to how many of each bird I shoot, as well as select during my culling process. I've selected 10 images to look at, and 9 of them are Steller's sea eagles, and I'd say that 10 to 9 is a pretty accurate ratio. By the time I shot this first image, the light was starting to pick up. We go out before the sun rises to enable us to capture the birds in the morning glow, or sometimes with the sunrise. It's more challenging to begin with, as we make use of high ISOs or do panning shots, but then as the sun does get to work, it's easier to grab sharp images with great detail. And I love how sharp the eyes and talons are on this eagle as he prepares to scoop a fish out of the water. As the sun rose the following morning, there was a mist, and the sun peeked through with a pinkish colour, and I was able to capture it reflecting in the water between the sea ice as this white-tailed eagle flew diagonally away from us. I know that some of you will be thinking, butt shot, but I like this. I think the butt shot stigma causes many photographers to ignore perfectly good opportunities. They help to tell a story as the animal is always moving away from us or into the scene along our line of sight, so I don't always lower my camera when the subject is showing their behind. The light was low still when I shot this image, so my ISO was up at 8000. But I was able to get a shutter speed of a 640th of a second at f8, so the image quality is fine. I continued to manually adjust my exposure as the sun strengthened and got this next photo with ISO 6400 for a 1250th of a second, still at f8. We can still see a little bit of the pink sunrise reflected in the water, and I love the spread out flight feathers of the Steller's sea eagle in this shot. Of course, it's also nice that we can see the splash as the fish is pulled from the water, and the fish's face is also visible as it's whisked away. Remaining with the same settings, this next image shows what almost looks like contrails left by the tail of the eagle as he skims the surface of the water, coming in for a catch, with those amazing talons stretched out forward. As with most of my images, this is uncropped, straight out of the camera, so you can see how much risk I take when working with these subjects. I do, of course, miss shots as well, but when you are able to capture shots framed like this and not have to throw out pixels to crop or rotate them, it feels pretty good. Less dynamic action in this next image, but there is still tension as the eagle teeters on the edge of the sea ice, looking to get to a fish, but isn't going to get to it without taking a bit of a plunge. I don't recall exactly what happened next, but looking through my original images, I see that he stayed in this position for quite some time, and I imagine he gave up, as I don't have a shot of him taking a dip. This next image gives you an idea of how fortunate we are at this location with the number of birds to photograph. 2 of them are also kicking up snow, which I like to see, but a total of 7 Steller's sea eagles in the frame at this focal length is awesome for us and the species. I have other shots of literally hundreds of these birds sitting out on the ice, but they don't all look great photographically, so you'll have to extrapolate out from this. I mentioned tight cropping and risk earlier, and one mistake I have repeatedly made over the years is zooming in too tight on an eagle that I knew was about to take flight. I want the subject large in the frame, so I zoom in, knowing that when they raise their wings to fly, they will require plenty of room above the bird. I finally gave this bird enough room for its wings, which I caught at full stretch here as he took his first flap to get airborne. I'd zoomed out slightly from 500mm to 472mm, but it was just enough to stop me from clipping the bird's wings. This next image is the second of 2 frames from my final selects, showing a bit of conflict between 2 Steller's sea eagles. The one on the left kicked the second and knocked it over, to the obvious displeasure of the bird on the right. I was pleased to get this without clipping the bird's wings too, but this time I was zoomed in to 500mm, although I recall consciously moving the camera up and to the right to include the wings and fallen bird, which I'd have clipped if I didn't recompose at the time. The next image shows a collision between 2 eagles as they both flew in at an angle with their eyes set on the same fish. Again, a little bit of recomposing and a lot of luck resulted in me getting both birds in the frame, and I couldn't help feeling a little bit guilty, as this would be less likely to happen if there wasn't so much competition for the fish that we are ultimately responsible for, as the people on the boat that we went out with are throwing the fish into the sea. The eagle on the right of the frame was stunned for a while and floated half sunken for about 30 seconds before a few flaps with that massive 2.5-meter wingspan lifted it far enough out of the water to start running along the water while flapping to get airborne again. I've not seen this in the 18 years that I've been photographing the eagles like this, and I asked the people on the boat what they do if the eagle can't get airborne again. The skipper showed me a video on his phone showing them scooping an eagle out of the sea with a large net, and they then gave it room and time to recover on the boat before it flew away again. Here to finish is another butt shot, as this eagle flies away from us, signalling an end to our last shoot of this season and the last photograph of these 3 series of episodes sharing my favourite images from the winter of 2023. Before we finish, I'd like to play you a recording of the kind comments from the amazing group of participants that I was lucky enough to spend 2 weeks with on this trip. Okay, so here we are bright and early on the last morning of the 3rd and final winter tour, the 2nd wildlife tour of the season. We're heading over to the airport and we are going to do a quick run around the bus and get a comment from each of the participants. So Dan, you want to say something?
Hi, my name is Jan Eng from New York City. I've been to Japan many times, but not a wildlife tour. So if you have any doubts, don't. Take the tour. Excellent.
Vicky, you'd like to say something?
Sure. My name is Vicki Lyon. I'm from Houston, Texas. This is my first trip to Japan. with the wildlife, and I absolutely loved it. It was fabulous. The group is excellent, and the leader was super knowledgeable of everything we were trying to do. So I recommend this if anyone wants to come this way.
Hi, John Best from the UK. First full wildlife tour I've done with Martin, and I can recommend it 100%. I've had a great time. We've had a fantastic trip. All the participants have bonded together, and Martin's been a tremendous guide and help to everybody through the entire journey.
Thank you. Andrea, do you want to say something?
Hello, my name is Andrea from Chile. This is first time in Japan. I am very happy. Thank you so much for all the group for helps. And thank you, Martin. Excellent, the tour, and Rachel. Thank you.
Hi, this is Gonzalo Somoza from Argentina. We spent 12 wonderful days here. The wildlife was awesome. Martins and his team, very, very helpful. I hope we can do in the future the landscape tour too. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Okay.
Hi, my name is Weeb Gortmaker from Boulder, Colorado. This was an absolutely incredible trip. The weather was very accommodating. We got everything we wanted, and we had a great group of people, so it was just a wonderful time the whole time. Thank you.
A wonderful wildlife tour, and Martin spent as much time with the more professional photographers as he did with those with fewer skills, and as exciting as being in South Georgia in Antarctica, but here in Hokkaido. Beautiful.
Hi, my name is Paul Stokes. I'm from Adelaide, Australia. It was a very exciting and invigorating trip, and taught me a lot more about photography than I knew after 20 years or so.
Hi, my name is Ian Brennan from Dublin in Ireland. My second time to come over here to be lucky enough to have the trip with Martin. To me, the trip is really bookended with probably the two best things I loved: the snow monkeys initially, and then the eagles at the end. I just thought they were absolutely amazing, and as ever, the culture and the hospitality was fantastic.
Hi, I'm Barbara from Florida, but live and work in California. My favorite part was my fellow participants, the snow monkeys, the eagles. This has been the most relaxing vacation I have ever had, and Japan is beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so last but not least, would you like to say anything, Reiko?
Thank you very much for the tour, and thank you for the cooperation, and I hope you enjoy this tour, and thank you very much, and muchas gracias. Arigatou gozaimasu. Goodbye. Sayonara.
Thank you. Okay, folks, so let's end up with once again a round of applause for our wonderful driver here. Probably nice. Okay, thanks, folks. Many thanks to the group for your kind comments, and to the previous groups. It was an unforgettable season, and I'm honoured and humbled to have been able to share time with you this year. If you are considering joining a future trip, please check out our tours and workshops page at mbp.ac/tours. Thanks very much for listening today. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider supporting us on Patreon, which comes with various benefits depending on your contribution. From basic support of the podcast and access to the MBP community forum to full-blown photography mentorships. For further details, check out our Patreon page at mbp.ac/Patreon. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter and LinkedIn, and links to everything that I'm up to are at martinbaileyphotography.com, so do drop by and take a look. I'll be back next week with another episode, but in the meantime, you take care and have a great week, whatever you're doing. Bye bye.